Sorry, just saw something. I had to laugh. We are back for another. Oh, this is gonna be a great short one.
It was a kitty hair. I couldn't not get it out of my mouth.
Hey, we're just having fun on the Holiday Marketing That podcast. Today we're going to talk about Google local service ads. You may or may not have heard of them. It's a different type of campaign, so we're going to talk about that. I feel like we already had our little fun, but we're going to do it. What is something your brain tries to make you do and you have to will yourself not to do it?
Like, thinking the worst what
Mm,
ifs. Like, I come up with the worst case scenarios because I have this thing where I have standards, but I don't necessarily set expectations, so that way I don't get, like, upset or mad or
yeah, yeah.
hurt, and so, I will always come up with, the worst case scenario, that way I'm always prepared.
I was gonna say, I was gonna tell you that that's how you can make that a positive
Mhm.
is that if you do that, you just can't let yourself like kind of snowball into, well, that's going to happen. It prepares you for, okay, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
But that's easier said than done. Like when it does happen, um, you run into that. So, I always have in the back of my brain that I don't know what I'm talking about when it comes
Mhm.
to marketing. I always have this like fear that I'm going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm doing. And, the reality is I know that's not true. I very much know what I'm doing. But it's that subconscious thought. And so I just have to remind myself that I do know what I'm doing. I've been in this field for a very long time, but that's something I have to constantly retrain myself.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
maybe it's the way the market is and things are constantly changing that it's very easy to be like, "Oh my gosh, do I know what I'm doing?" Yes, you do. You have a history of seeing all the ups and downs and how to make those changes. So
Yeah. Always talk yourself off the ledge. That self-reassurance is
Yes, yes, for sure. So all right. So today we're going to talk about local service ads. And basically, this is a way to pay per lead. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Like, why would I not want to pay per lead?
Mhm. Is there some fine print we should be discussing?
Maybe a little. So, not everybody qualifies to do local service ads, and this is a completely different type of Google ads that you can do that is not done inside the normal Google ads. It's completely separate, and essentially, you as a business owner are paying per lead if you are in one of these certain headings. So doesn't sound too bad so far, right?
Right.
For the consumer, there are, what's called Google Guaranteed, where the business owner, has to pass Google screening and verification and a pretty decent lengthy process to be considered quote unquote Google Guaranteed. A benefit of that is that you can be reimbursed for anybody that's dissatisfied with the quality of your work. Um, that I've never seen anybody turn in a claim, but it is there.
Mhm.
And Google's running background checks. And so you can have a little bit more confidence in that. Um, so, that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. And, I think there's some positives and negatives.
Mhm.
So, okay, go right ahead. Did you have a point?
Well, more of a question. Like, of course, like if you're in the service industry, it's something to look into. But aside from just being in the service industry, is there something else that might tip off that you would be a really great candidate for these local service ads?
Yeah. So there are some things that will make you perform better if you have these. And so I would say if you have a lot of Google reviews, so Google My Business reviews. If you don't have a lot of Google My Business reviews, I wouldn't recommend this. I would start there first. And you have a lot of good images that you can upload, and I would say you have somebody that is able to qualify leads because you are paying per lead and you do have the ability to argue or debate with Google, I will say, what you pay for. So if you've got somebody that, can be there to do that for you, that would be good as well. Um, but there's definitely some positives and negatives, though. Positives, it shows above regular search ads. So if you are doing regular search ads, so I recommend that you do both. These are ads that are going to show above that. It's got that Google guaranteed badge, so it quote unquote can make you look more legit. Um, you can, with their tool, kind of see prior, like, what are you likely to pay per lead? And for the most part, once it's set up, that's where all the work is at. It's pretty low maintenance as far as taking care of it.
Real quick, I have a question. So, if you can kind of forecast what you'll be paying per lead, are there specifics to what's um considered a lead? Like, is it a click? Is it a call? Like,
That's a really good question. And that would lead into negatives. You don't have any control. You are choosing categories. So let's say you're choosing that you are a roofer. You're not choosing the keywords that your ad would show up for. And so therefore Google is choosing that. And if Google gets paid per lead, it's in Google's, purview to have you show up for terms that they see. And given on their track record with regular Google search ads, I'm going to say the quality of leads could be bad. They could not be that great because you have no control over what you show up for.
mm,
There's just no insights on the leads. You're not supposed to use a call tracking number. What we've seen is it's, a little unpredictable, a little unstable, where sometimes you've got a lot of great leads and then other times you don't. And so I look at that as kind of negatives to it. It won't always spend your budget. So you might say to spend $400 a week and it won't spend it. Um, but I think it still has positives. So I don't think that you should not do it. I think you should do it. I've seen cost per lead be less, but quality of the lead not be as good. So depending on your heading, though, I'll take lead over just a click.
yeah. Well, okay. So, from what I can remember, the setup for these local service ads can be a little finicky sometimes. Would you say that's usually the case when it comes to these?
Finicky, lengthy. You got to go through this Google guaranteed process. So you got to have background checks, and there's a lot of documentation that you need from the business in order to get it set up. Um, Once you kind of get through that process, the rest of it is fairly straightforward. It's kind of like filling out a Google My Business profile. There is some bidding structures that you can do in there. but not nearly as sophisticated as a regular Google search ads for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, speaking of Google search, should you run both Google search and local service ads together?
Yeah, I think so based on the fact that it's finicky and, there's not any guarantee that they're gonna spend the budget that you put in there, and plus I think about the if, on a search results page, if you are in both spots, it's gonna have a lot more brand recognition and you got a lot more eggs in the basket and you're more likely to get clicked on. And so, yeah, I would definitely run both of them for sure. So, but they're fairly simple as I'm talking about to a degree. There's positives, there's negatives, but I definitely think if you fall in one of the categories, you should take a look at Google local search ads. Anything else you would add? She's like, "I don't
Hmm.
run Google Ads, so"
No.
All right, well, take care.